if the progressive thing isn't viable, does that mean that the trad thing's viable?
No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this is what frustrates me so much, is that progressive are obviously lost, but then like conservatives or some of the trad people are like, okay, we're going to go back to being trad. No, you're not. We're never getting rid of abortion. We're never getting rid of birth control. Women are working in ways that they never have before, and they have so much control over reproduction that the world is fundamentally changed.
Yep.
And whatever we go forward with in the world, it has to take into account those two realities. So anybody that's walking out here expecting that men can get women with paychecks or by being alpha, everything you're saying doesn't matter anymore. You're talking about a world that doesn't exist anymore. And anybody that's talking about like very traditional roles in terms of like who's earning more money in the household or whatever, you're probably not relevant anymore. So we have to carve out some world in the future where we have some idea of a masculine or male archetype that's compatible with the fact that your wife might be earning or even out earning you, right? That has to be a thing, because once Pandora's box is open in terms of like the reproduction shit and the working shit, it's just not going to go away. Women are going back to what they were before. It's not going to happen. And it sucks because like it would be interesting to see a lot of like trad talks in that direction. There's only one person I've ever heard give a good take on trad relationships, and it was fucking Ben Shapiro. Did you see Ben Shapiro's conversation with Lex Friedman?
Bits of it.
I come from a very conservative background. I grew up Catholic. And when I listen to traditional people talk about male-female relationships, the fact that the woman was staying in the house, it was always something that was spoken about with the utmost amount of respect. A woman might stay in the house, but like this whole the way that like the father is the leader, like it's kind of true, but it was always with consultation and consent and cooperation. Yes, always. And the way that people talk about it today is with such fucking derision and hatred for women, and like, oh yeah, like she stays in the house, the man is the leader, the man is in charge. And it's like even the sitcoms before, even when the fathers were highly competent, show that the woman was very much an important figure. Bill Cosby was he a doctor or a dentist? And like his wife, like even he was scared of his wife. In the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the Uncle Phil was a fucking high-powered attorney lawyer, and his wife was very scary, right? That was always the case.
And then you roll that forward into the period where men became the clowns, the Homer Simpsons of the world, the Peter Griffins of the world. It's even more. It's the woman that is the competent one. She's the one that's balanced. She runs the home. She runs the man.
Yeah, even in a traditional sense. So like when the trad people talk about this, is one of my big complaints about like red pillars. Is there's always so much adversity between men and women, rather than like cooperation. So any trad thing going forward, I don't think there's anything wrong with trad stuff. Some of it is fun. Like some masculine and feminine roles can be fun in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, whatever. But it has to be done with respect to where the kind of like the labor market is and the education and everything and the reproductive rights are today, because that's not going to change. So it has to incorporate that going forward.
How do you square the circle of women's, I'm going to call it over success, but women's increased success in both education, employment, and status, with the fact that on average women want to date a man who's as educated or more, as employed or more, as statusful or more?
Women want to, but that has changed pretty dramatically. I wish I had the study in hand, but I want to say it was like 20 years ago, it was like 45% of women would never consider dating a guy that was earning less than them. And I think that number has fallen out to like 29%. And it'll probably continue to change over time. But yeah, that's going to be something changing going forward. This might just be my capitalist mindset, but like I always, when people email me and they always say like, Destiny, I want to start like this business, or I want to start this website, I want to blah, blah, like, what's your piece of advice to me? The one thing that I always ask somebody is, if you want to start a small business, first question, in my opinion, you should be able to answer is, why would somebody use your thing over anything else? If you don't have a snappy response to that, then quit. Go do something else. You need to know immediately, like, they want to use my thing or watch me because I can offer this unique thing. And I think you should approach everything in life like that. So if you're a man and you're approaching a woman and you're trying to say like, okay, I want to be in a relationship with a woman. Well, what do you have to offer? What's the value add? It can't just be a paycheck because women are working. It can't just be dick because she's got birth control and Tinder. It has to be something more than that. And people aren't equipping men, I think, to have a good answer to that question. You can talk about like the alpha hypermasculine stuff, but like to be that masculine, you're talking about like 1% of guys. You're talking about like even six-figure, depending on where you're at, might not necessarily be the shit. You're talking about a very, very, very small percentage. So I feel like a lot of people aren't equipping men like to be able to like have that value add for women.
What are some of the value adds then, if it's outside of providing resources, employment, etc.?
There's going to be I'm going to trigger the fuck out of a lot of people saying this. Here's how I view like the world has gone. Okay, women were feminine. men were masculine, and women over the past 20, 30, 40 years have done a really good job at kind of like capturing and incorporating a whole bunch of masculine traits. Okay. Women are working. They have a lot of independence. They're kind of managing their shit. They've done a really good job at incorporating that while also still being feminine. Some people say that make you less feminine, but like they still have like the feminine traits too. They can take care of houses. They can clean and all this shit. Maybe some of them can't cook, whatever. For men, I feel like because of the way that we were raised, the way that we're socialized or whatever, we still kind of have our masculine things, like men can work jobs and do that. And they do, sometimes even to their detriment. For example, like over the coronavirus pandemic, men were staying home more than women to continue working to provide for their families, right? So the education gap grew even more during the pandemic.
7 times more men dropped out of college during COVID than women.
Yeah, to maintain like households and everything, right? So men are still working, they're doing that. But the problem is men haven't incorporated any of the feminine traits into their like psyche. So women are now like these like alpha, omega, like masculine, feminine creatures that are now going through, that are going through the world. And men are like, okay, well, I'm very masculine. And it's like, okay, well, can you be communicative? Do you have emotional intelligence? Can you do any of these things? Things that traditional like guys don't give a fuck about because like I don't need to be emotionally intelligent. I have a paycheck. My money. Yeah, you need my money to survive, bitch. What are you gonna do, right? And now she's like, well, I have enough money. Fuck you. And I was like, okay.
So one of the things that I could see as a complication or a wrinkle there is that the sex drive and desire for women from men is so great that even a woman who has ingrained her masculine is still going to be attractive to the guy.
For sure.
I'm not convinced that a guy who has embodied his feminine becomes more attractive to a woman, especially when you have this disparity with regards to earning and education.
I think it's possible. I just think we have like really weird and toxic ideas of like what feminine means, especially from like red pill or manosphere spaces. I run into this all the time. That for instance, it's oh man. Okay, here's a really, really insane example to me that I hear. Okay. I don't know if you've said this, but a lot of red pillers say this thing where it's like, you should never, ever be emotionally vulnerable to a woman because she might...
Never, ever said that. I'm not, just to get it out there so that you understand my positioning within the world of men's advice. I'm not a part of the manosphere. I never have been. I'm not red pill. I never have been.
Gotcha. Okay.
I am so blue pilled that I'm cooked in the eyes of the manosphere, and I'm so bigoted that I'm a misogynist in the eyes of Guardian readers. So I split the difference straight down the middle. You have...
Okay.
And when it comes to the emotional vulnerability thing, that is a story that is told by men who have only ever been in relationships with women who haven't got good emotional control. There are women out there who will, and I've been in relationships with some of them, that saw vulnerability as a strength. That saw me opening up as... Or even so people will say that like if you're ever emotionally vulnerable, she might leave you, right? But if you're like, if you're an emotionally intellectual man, you know emotional intelligence, emotional vulnerability is one of the biggest tools a manipulator can use to totally fucking mindfuck somebody. Because showing limited amounts of vulnerability can get a woman incredibly obsessed with you. And any guy that like is like a manipulative person knows that. Well, think about what the push and pull is, right? The high-powered boss bitch female lawyer that wants to be tied up and dommed by her husband on a nighttime. Why is that hot? Why is that interesting? Because of the polarity.
Sometimes,
The same thing goes for the guy that can be vulnerable on one side, but is also super competent, going out there and doing his thing, is able to show strength, but show something else too.
Yes, absolutely. The polarity is really important. And I know this in my life because I'm online. I'm like hyper aggressive, ultra debate bro, very, I'll say masculine. I'm very, very, very aggressive. But then, did you say want to be pegged in the bedroom? No, nice try. But like on a personal level, if somebody sees me and I'm like a bit more emotionally vulnerable or a bit more open to somebody, it feels like very special. It feels very earned. Like, oh, cool. Like, and every woman I've talked to, I have never in my life had a woman tell me like, God, I wish you would just be more aggressive to me personally. It's always like, I wish you would open up more. I wish you'd be like more blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I try. I have issues with sometimes, but like, yeah. But that's an idea of like what it means to be more feminine. But every time you say that to like a red pill or whatever, they're like, oh, you want to just like cry and sob and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that's called being a fucking child. Okay? Not being emotionally intelligent.
Think about that. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war quote that everybody loves to throw around. Okay, turn that on its head and say it's exactly the same thing. But in this instance, being a warrior is being able to integrate your emotions.
Yeah.
But okay, is it not better to have an understanding of your emotions, be in connection with them, and then choose to deploy them when you think that it's appropriate and be able to open up, as opposed to being like, no, this is just a black box that me and no one else is ever going to look at, and I'm going to die at age 70 because of fucking like emotional, spiritual death.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really dumb. Like that, having that emotional intelligence is so important. It's the number one thing I need to work on in my life, that I'm like actively like working a lot with my wife, even, is like try to be like a little bit more emotionally communicative, because I've grown up like as a very stoic person. But I think that every woman wants like that type of communication with a guy on a healthier level. But a lot of men don't learn it because we don't really communicate with ourselves like that.
There are some women out there, I think, that would see, I've been around them, ones that will say, if I see my partner make a joke that doesn't land, I cringe inside, my ovaries shrivel up inside, that they're hyper attuned to a man's status.
There might be. There are also some women that only date guys with super huge forearms. But I mean, like, there's always going to be like the exceptions, of course.
Whatever you say.
Yeah, well, there you go, yeah. But I mean, like, in general, like being a bit more emotionally intelligent and communicative is pretty important as a guy, I think. You need to be, especially to understand like women, like you need to be more in tune with yourself to see it like in other people too.
Remember as well that the biggest predictors when it comes to longevity in a relationship are emotional stability, conscientiousness, growth mindset. Those are the ones they have the best predictive power. The stuff like traditional attractiveness, education level is controlled for a little bit, but earnings have none of this. But that's not what you're optimizing for. And this is where I think that in trying to integrate some of the insights that I talk about a ton on the show, but saying, okay, what's your outcome goal here? Is your outcome goal to be able to fuck as many girls as possible, or to sleep with one guy and never catch feels? Or is it to try and have a flourishing relationship that's going to make you feel fulfilled and not mean that you die alone at like fucking 75 with a ton of dogs?
Yeah.
Like, what are we optimizing for?
Yeah. Yeah. And like I talk about, like, in my opinion, there's like, people treat it as like there's two boxes. You've got femininity and masculinity. And then like you try to like maximize women femininity, men masculinity. And I always do it as like, there's like three boxes. You've got like femininity, maturity, and masculinity. We all need to work on our maturity. And then like femininity and masculinity is like really fun things on the side. You know, if you've got a guy who is incredibly intelligent, he's a hard worker, he's really driven, he's in tune with everything, and he's you know, tries his best, like, that's awesome. If he's also like 6'4", that's a bonus. It's like a fun thing on the side. Or if you've got a girl who's got like, you know, she's got all of her stuff figured out and she's got like big boobs, like that's cool. Like the masculine and the feminine things are like really fun things on the side, and they can like be really fun things to play with. But that's not like the main driving, contributing successes in these relationships, I think, you know?
Think about what current dating optimizes for, though. It optimizes for those easily displayable objective metrics of success. It's the Rolex on your Tinder profile. It's the number of followers that you've got. It's the blue tick. It's the car. It's the size of the boobs. It's a lip filler, etc.
For sure.
etc.
Yeah. And for fucking men today, it's fucking TRT.
It is TRT.
I think guys are heading towards a world where we're finally going to start to see how negative social media can affect you in the way that has been affecting women for so long. Okay?
Why?
Because all these motherfuckers now, okay, all these guys, I don't give a fuck, 99% of fitness influencers are on fucking gear. And TRT counts as gear now. Okay? Every motherfucker does. I've seen so many videos, so many things where guys are like, oh, these are like my 6-month results for like lifting or whatever. And these guys are like, they're lean as fuck. They're getting huge. And it's like, oh, like I'm 27 lifting for the first time in 5 months. This is my, like, bro, really?
So why is that? What's that got to do with the female impact of social media?
Because I think for women, women see like a whole bunch of like, this is what women should look like. You should be this and that. And like everybody's using like filters and lip filler and
but TRT is the
for guys, it's like,
filter.
yeah, it's going to be the next thing. Like, oh, well, if you're a guy and you've been lifting for 6 months, you should look like this. And it's like, no shot. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm seeing more and more of those like pop up everywhere now where it's almost like, and because TRT is so accessible these days.
Have you ever had your levels done? Have you ever checked what your tests are?
They're very low.
What do you think? What
the last time I checked is 308.
Wow, that is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like nearly subclinical, I think. Like you would.
It's like, I've heard the range is anywhere from 300 to 1,000.
So you've got 8. You're playing with 8.
Yeah, or 350 to 1,000, so I'm already below it. But I don't have any of the symptoms of low T, so like, yeah, I'm in the gym, I'm doing my best, but yeah.
Well played. In other news, this episode is brought to you by Seed. Seed's DSO1 Daily Synbiotic is one of the most advanced probiotics and prebiotics on the market. With 24 strains, it is a broad-spectrum probiotic and prebiotic formulated for digestive, gut, immune, and additional system benefits with 53.6 billion AFU. Its 2-in-1 capsule technology protects against stomach acid and digestive enzymes for viability through your digestion. This means that the probiotics will actually make it to the end of the small intestine for delivery, which massively increases its effectiveness for you. All of this means that your digestion will move more smoothly, so if you've been considering using some probiotics and prebiotics for a while and you want to make an upgrade to your digestion, Seed is the most advanced option on the market. You can get 15% off your first month by clicking the link in the description below or by going to seed.com/modernwisdom and using the code modernwisdom at checkout. That's seed.com/modernwisdom and Modern Wisdom at checkout.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe. Peace.